the highlights, I like to bring my notes out. And in this Phoenix game, Drew, I only had 2 notes. I had 2 notes that were written in Sharpie and have an exclamation point next to it. And these are the 2 notes, Drew. It says, "God damn, these guys need a point guard." Okay. That was the first note to Phoenix. And then the second says struggle ball. Struggle ball. These guys freaking struggle. And these 2 notes kind of coincide with both of them. Like, they have to work so hard to get a bucket because there is no set offense. There is no extension of the coach on the floor. This offense is like my turn, your turn. No, it's my turn 3-pointers. When you have a super hyper aggressive defense like Minnesota, it's just straight anarchy, man. It's anarchy on the floor. And I just don't know how it's going to work out. I think they're at a point where, look, Booker is not a point guard. Bradley Beal is not a point guard. Kevin Durant is not a point guard. Yes, they can all bring up the ball, but they are not point guards. You need somebody to set up these shooters and these stars instead of playing this ISO ball. We know how great all 3 of these guys are offensively, but there's no cohesion. You brought in Isaiah Thomas, signed him for the rest of the year. He has playoff experience. I think you need to throw the kid in there, man. This is exactly the time where you wish you had Chris Paul. I know I brought it up a couple times during the year on this show, but look, even a campaign, bro, right? Like, even a campaign right now, you need somebody. I don't think this is going to work, man. And, the quote of the day yesterday was when they asked Ant, they're like, these guys have KD. And he's like, well, we got Jaden McDaniels. And it's so true. I mean, KD had 18, 6 and shot 40. McDaniels had 25, 8 and almost shot 60% from the field. Conley was huge. McDaniels was huge. Alexander Walker was huge. These guys got a lot of talent, man. And these guys, DGAF, they really don't care who's in front of them or who they're playing. We saw Ant in game 1 go against his idol, Kevin Durant. He ain't scared of them. And they're not scared of Devin Booker right now. I think Phoenix is really in trouble, man. And I'm seeing a first round exit. What about you, brother?
Yeah, Clips, I'm trying to figure out like what the major difference here is between these two teams, right? Because game 1 was a blowout. 20-point victory for the T-Wolves. Game 2 felt pretty contentious, and then the third quarter started to get away from the Suns. In the fourth quarter, they put him to bed behind Jaden McDaniels. Fantastic performance for that guy. And what an asset he is to that team, and what a pickup he is, really. I mean, like, for them to hold on, because, they had a lot of trades, right? D'Lo left there, and Conley came, and Patrick Beverly left, and, like, all these things happened, and they held on to that dude. And they must have known, at least somebody must have known, how good McDaniels is. And it's showing up right now. But Clips, something very interesting about this particular game 2, is the teams, both the Suns and the T-Wolves, shot exactly 78 shots each, and both made exactly 35 shots each.
Didn't know that.
So they both were identical from the field, which is really interesting. Then, of course, the difference here, which it might be glaring to others, Suns made Minnesota made one more three than the Suns did, and they shot a slightly lower percentage. Minnesota did. They were 28 for 9 of 32, and the Suns were 8 of 22. But the glaring difference here is the free throws. And this is where I think a point guard really comes into play here a little bit. Like, Minnesota took 30 free throws. They made 26. Phoenix took 19 free throws. They made 15. And that is the game. That right there is the entirety of the game, is the free throws. When you look at this game in particular. So there's two things there. One, I think fouls mean that defense isn't working very much. Fouls a lot of times mean that you're getting bailed out, or you got beat off the dribble, or you're trying to recover and you do your best to defend and you foul somebody because they're getting the best of you. So the Suns' defense is obviously a glaring problem that has been the case for the entire season. And then on the flip side, it means also that you're probably not getting the ball very close to the basket. It means you're probably not driving to the basket enough to get that contact on the way to the rim and get those free throw shots. So this, to me, that was just a very interesting thing that I saw last night, as I was looking at the box score. I was like, look at that shit. How often do you see both teams exactly the same percentage from the field? It's not very often. And then for that to be also resulting in a 12-point victory is really, obviously kind of confusing when you look at it like that. But back to the point guard idea for the Suns, I have to be assuming that they're all regretting trading Chris Paul. And look, I don't know necessarily that Chris Paul would be the savior, right? Because he fractured his hand in Golden State and he looked old as balls at times for Golden State. But I tell you what, man, he would definitely be helping Devin Booker and Kevin Durant get the ball in the spots that they can attack. And right now, because of the really solid on-ball pressure from Minnesota's defense, whether that be Conley or Ant or McDaniels, they're forcing the offense from the Phoenix Suns to push way further out than they're comfortable with. And they're not able to run their sets. And then you're seeing the shot clock kind of evaporate and you're like, oh shit, they got to throw up a really tough contested shot. And look, all three of those guys, Beal, Booker, and Durant, are capable shot makers with the best defense on them. We've seen that time and time again, especially from Durant and Booker. But it is not an easy task when you have really long, athletic, defensive players that are giving it their all 100% of the game. So I do think that, you know, if they decide to play Isaiah Thomas, fine, right? I don't know if Isaiah Thomas can save them here.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
No, but what I mean is, like, I don't know if there is a point guard that they have on their team or if there's a point guard necessarily in the league right now. I mean, maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be a guy that they could go get because that guy was pretty incredible in that game. But there's not a lot of point guards that can, like, immediately change the situation for them, because it does come back down to the other side of the floor where I started, the defense. If Phoenix isn't able to play good defense, which is a massive problem for them, it doesn't matter where their offense is going because they're just getting scored on time and time again. And then, of course, it would make the offense easier if they have a point guard to help facilitate, but that point guard has to withstand the pressure that Minnesota's putting on the ball handler. And that's where I think it gets a little tough. I think, you know, all things considered, they would scrap the Bradley Beal trade. You know, hindsight's 2020. They would have to. I would assume they would want to scrap that trade. And something that came to my mind was like, you know, if you could do that over again, and instead of keeping Chris Paul and trade Ayton to Toronto for like OG Anunoby and like Precious, like, or Pirtle, like, that's the trade. If we could go back and wave a magic wand over it, that's how they should do it. But of course, that's neither here nor there. And the Suns, do I think they're due for an outburst game 3 or game 4? Definitely, because they haven't had an easy go of this, and they are really good shot makers. But I also think that they kind of see the writing on the wall. I don't think there's a lot of belief within the roster, within the squad, that they can actually achieve something here. And I think that shows up a lot in the end of these games.
It's a really good point. And, you know, Jamal Crawford brought up, you know, maybe they should try bringing Beal off the bench and maybe Isaiah Thomas runs the point or something like that, dude. Look, the difference between having 3 stars like Beal, KD, and Booker and then having Harden, Kawhi, and PG is Harden can run the point. You know what I mean? Like, he can actually run the point and get buckets and defend. That's the difference. And I don't know, man. It just looked like complete anarchy. When I say struggle ball, even the buckets that they got looked like a complete struggle. They had to work for it. KD had to dribble, step back. You're getting touched. Ant's in your dome. Then you get past Ant or whoever else, and you got Rudy freaking Gobert in the paint or Cat. It's just a lot. I think they're too big. Their bench is not enough. And with Grayson Allen hurting his ankle, and we're talking like Grayson Allen's the savior. He's not the savior, but he's been. But if we're talking like, yo, Isaiah Thomas and Grayson Allen need to save this Phoenix Suns team, there's not a lot going on for you, dog. You know what I mean?
That's tough. That's tough.
And when
the Suns also had 19 turnovers, so like that's obviously a glaring stat that is important as well. So that's an obvious one right there, right? So with a better point guard, one that's better, you know, more comfortable handling the ball and, you know, facilitating out of that when there's a double, for instance, you assume those turnovers would be dropped tremendously, even by 5. And 5 turnovers gets them 5 more shots. Maybe that is the difference in the game, right?
Well, you know, when you have a brand new owner in Ishbia who wants to win now and he just sees the shiny, bright things, we need to have this. And now when hindsight's 2020, look, dude, they have surrendered all their draft picks until 20. You think the Clippers got it bad, right? You got a 36-year-old Kevin Durant, a Booker, and a Beal. Think when Kevin Durant ain't there and it's like, shit, I'm stuck with Booker and Beal. Like, you just need way more pieces, man. And bench players are huge. I love Royce O'Neal, right? Like, I will take Royce on my team any day of the week. He's on my give me that guy on my team. But Royce, again, add him to the list as Isaiah Thomas, Grayson Allen, and Royce O'Neal. Are they going to be the saviors? They're not. And I remember we had a conversation on our pod a couple weeks ago when I asked you if there was a path for them to even win a championship. And you said there, of course, there is a path if these guys are just elite offensively every single night. But it's not looking like that. And you have to, in order to be elite offensively, you have to have an elite offense to create that kind of stuff. And I don't think they do. I just really think it's more my turn, your turn. Okay, now it's me. Even Vogel, he's a great coach, man. But I just don't see it, dude. I'll be surprised if these guys win a game. That's how crazy I'm feeling about Minnesota right now. And I want to bring up Minnesota's fans. Look, Phoenix is coming home. It's always better to play at home. But those mini fans were electric last night. And just the swag that Ant has is enough to get that place popping, dude. And I was just really impressed. Minnesota, when and Ant didn't have a good game. Ant had 15 points. So when your best player...
3 of 12.
3 of 12. Awful.
3 of 12, yeah.
But you know what I saw him doing? He was extremely engaged on defense. He was hyped on the bench when Conley and when Alexander Walker was getting buckets. I mean, everything he said about Jaden. This is when players become, paid players. Jaden McDaniels is becoming a paid ass player. And wasn't he the dumb one last year that broke his wrist or 2 years ago, broke his wrist after socking the wall?
Punched the wall.
Was it last year? Was it 2 years
ago? That was last year.
That was last year. And, I think he's maturing a little bit more, but they got swag, bro. They got something about them that, like I said earlier, they just don't give a shit about who they're playing. And honestly, I think Ant wants to destroy his eye.
Yeah. Well, from the Minnesota perspective, I mean, really from Phoenix's perspective, this is a game that they really should have won, right? They're only able to put up 93 points. But in this game, Anthony Edwards, 15 points. We just talked about that. Karl-Anthony Towns, 12 points. 3 for 7. Naz Reid, 5 points, 1 for 5. That is a game that the Suns need to win because that shit ain't going to happen again. Not all 3 of those guys are going to be that ice cold and just a little bit off their game offensively like that. So there is the sweep. Get the broom ready because it feels like a sweep is coming. But I want to just highlight a couple other things. I mean, McDaniels had the 25 for Minnesota, 8 rebounds as well. But Anthony Edwards, 8 assists. 8 assists is a really, really solid number for your on ball, like out and out best scorer on the team. To be like, no, I'm going to facilitate. Like maybe I don't have it tonight. Right. I'm going to cap it at 12 shots. I'm not going to take 25 shots and be 6 for 25. I'm going to be 3 for 12 and dime out to everybody else that's hidden because Gobert had 18, Conley big 18 points, and then Nickeil Alexander-Walker 10 points off the bench. So I think it just speaks to like I was talking a little bit about there. Like Phoenix doesn't have the belief. Minnesota has the belief right now. I think every single one of those guys goes, okay, if it's not me, then I trust my guy over here and he's going to hit that shot or he's going to make the right decision. And if they were down at halftime, there's no like, oh shit, I guess we don't have it tonight. No, they came right back out, boom, up by 8 at the end of the third quarter. So I think that's it wasn't up by, but they got into the lead by the end of the third quarter is what I was trying to say. They won the third quarter by 8 points. But yeah, massive difference, I think, in just general approach and feel for both of these teams. All the momentum is on Minnesota's side, and they're grasping their chance right now. And I don't think that they've ever been scared of this Phoenix Suns team. No. Even though I thought they might be a little bit scared when I was calling this series in the preview. I was like, man, I think the Suns could maybe get something out of this. I looked like I was way wrong. I mean, I still picked Minnesota, by the way. I picked Minnesota. I think I picked them in 6, but I thought it was going to be 6, and it doesn't feel like it's going to be 6.
You brought up the 8 dimes by Anthony Edwards. That's the maturity factor. Like this guy's maturing in front of our face, and that's one of the things that we discussed when he got drafted was his questionable maturity, and I think he's seeing it. And I just think your team normally takes on the personality of your best player, right? And Anthony Edwards' personality is like, fuck it. Like, let's go out and ball these guys out. We're better than them. And I love that. So I want to say one last thing about this game. And it's something that rubbed me really the wrong way. And Minnesota tends to rub me the wrong way. But I think this, and I don't know the context. So before I go all Allen Iverson statue on this, I don't necessarily know the context. But there was a play last night, I think it was in the end of the third quarter or beginning of the fourth, where Bradley Beal took it to the rack and Anthony Edwards beat that shit up, beat it right back, right? And then immediately following that, you see Zach Zarba, the official, give Anthony Edwards a dap, like a legit dap, high five. And I don't like that one bit. This is not the climate to be doing any of that in. There should be no personal relationships between an official and a player. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Zach was apologizing for something, but I ain't never. There ain't been a nail nutter time. Don't nobody say that nail nutter like you say that nail nutter. There ain't been a nail nutter time that I've seen an official dap up a player after a play. Am I wrong, Drew? Am I wrong about this? Because that shit didn't look right.
I think so. I only saw the clip. I didn't actually catch it live when it was happening, but I saw the clip circulate on social media and I didn't dissect it. I kind of just thought it was funny and let it be. The way that I saw it was I thought Zarba was asking for something or like, pointing in a direction, and then Ant just dapped him up. I think that is how I viewed it. Was like Ant just was like, "Oh, that's a hand. I'm gonna go in for the handshake." And then Zarba finishes the handshake. He doesn't pull his hand back or something like that. But I could be wrong. Again, I only looked at it for a quick moment and I had a little chuckle.
Right now.
Okay.
I'm rewatching it right now. No, Zarba. Hold on, Clips. Clips is rewatching live right now. Give it to me. No, Zarba puts out his hand and Ant daps him. I don't know, bro. Just going off of like.
I think was he asking for the ball? Was he asking for the ball? Was he saying like, "Give me that ball," and then Ant just turned it into a handshake?
Zarba's got the rock. Zarba's got the rock on him. I don't know.
Okay.
This is, again, wrong climate, a la Jonte Porter, a la Tim Donaghy. We don't need to see people broing. I don't need to see refs broing out with players. I just don't think it's a good look. There needs to be a line in the sand because it looks like they're homies, right?
Right.
We're all good.
Right.
And then when you think about it.
I couldn't agree more that the optics are not good. Definitely not